Have you ever stared at the ceiling on a Monday morning and wondered exactly how much capital it would take to never have to force yourself out of bed again? Most people believe the number is astronomical, a fairy tale figure like $5 million that seems impossible to reach. But what if I told you the real number, the number that functionally replaces your biological need to grind, is actually much lower? It is a specific, achievable milestone that acts as a financial kill switch for wage slavery. That number is $500,000. My name is King, and today I will show you why 500,000 is the exact mathematical threshold where your 9 to 5 becomes optional, and how this quiet replacement effectively hires a ghost to go to work for you. To understand why $500,000 is the most critical number in your financial existence, we have to deconstruct the lie that has been sold to you about retirement. Society, the media, and even your well-meaning parents have conditioned you to believe that financial freedom is a binary switch. They tell you that you are either working 40 hours a week or you are a decrepit 65-year-old sitting on a beach in Florida with a bad hip and $2 million in the bank. This binary thinking is what keeps you poor. It keeps you trapped because the goalpost of $2 million feels so far away that you never even bother to start running. But the reality of wealth is not binary. It is a spectrum. And the most important point on that spectrum is not the finish line. It is the tipping point. That tipping point is $500,000. When you possess $500,000 in a diversified investment portfolio, assuming a historical average return of 8% to 10% from the S&P 500, you have created a machine that prints roughly $40,000 to $50,000 a year. Now, I want you to stop and really look at that number, $50,000. To a billionaire, that is a rounding error, but to the average worker, that is an entire human life. The median individual income in the United States and many developed nations hovers right around that $50,000 mark. That means $500,000 invested is not just a pile of cash, it is a synthetic laborer. You have effectively cloned yourself. You have created a digital version of yourself that goes out into the economy and works a full-time job. But this synthetic laborer is superior to you in every single way. Think about your own biological limitations. You need to sleep 8 hours a day. You get sick. You get tired. You have emotional days where you just cannot focus. You need to eat. You need coffee. You need a commute. You need validation from your boss. Your synthetic laborer needs none of this. It does not sleep. It does not eat. It does not complain about the air conditioning in the office. It does not pay income tax at the same rate you do. It just works. It grinds 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. When you are sleeping, it is earning. When you are on vacation, it is earning. When you are sick in bed, it is earning. At 500,000, the output of the synthetic labor matches the output of your biological labor. This is the crossover point. This is the moment where the lines on the graph intersect. For the first time in your life, your money is contributing as much value to your household as your sweat is. And this changes the physics of your life in a way that is difficult to describe until you feel it. It is the difference between rowing a boat and putting up a sail. Before $500,000, you are rowing. If you stop rowing, the boat stops moving. After $500,000, the wind, the market, is moving the boat. You can still row if you want to go faster, but you don't have to row to keep from drowning. This leads us to the concept of the quiet replacement. Notice I didn't say retirement, I said replacement. The biggest mistake people make is thinking that hitting this number means they have to stop working entirely and do nothing for the rest of their lives. That is a recipe for depression. Humans need purpose. We need to solve problems. But there is a massive difference between solving problems because you enjoy it and solving problems because you will starve if you don't. At 500,000, your 9 to 5 income is effectively replaced by your investment returns. This unlocks a superpower called Coast Fire or Barista Fire. Let's say you hate your high-stress corporate job that pays $80,000 a year, but requires you to answer emails at midnight and deal with a toxic manager. But you stay because you need the money to save for the future. Once you have $500,000, the math changes. That $500,000 If left alone to compound without you adding another penny, will likely grow to 1 million in 7 to 9 years and 2 million in 15 to 18 years. Your retirement is funded. You are done saving. This means you no longer need that high-stress $80,000 job. You can quit. You can take a job that pays $40,000, a job you actually like, maybe working at a bookstore or a national park or starting a small craft business. And because you don't need to save for retirement anymore, that $40,000 covers your living expenses and you are free. You have effectively retired from the grind decades before your peers. You have reclaimed 40 hours of your week, 50 weeks of your year. That is the quiet replacement. It isn't about buying a Lamborghini, it's about buying your Monday mornings back. But there is a psychological layer to this that is even more profound than the math. I call it the FU frequency. Money emits a frequency. Debt emits a frequency of desperation. When you are living paycheck to paycheck, you vibrate with fear. Your boss can smell it. They know you need this job. They know you can't walk away. So they pile more work on you. They skip your raise. They disrespect your boundaries. And you take it because you have to. But 500,000 emits a different frequency. It emits a low, steady hum of quiet confidence. When you walk into a meeting knowing you have $500,000 working for you in the background, your posture changes. You speak differently. You aren't aggressive. You are just detached. You don't need them. And in a cruel twist of corporate irony, the less you need the job, the more they want you. The person who is willing to walk away is the person who holds all the negotiating power. You become dangerous in the best possible way. You can take risks on projects that others are too scared to touch. You can speak the truth to power because the worst thing they can do is fire you. And if they fire you, you just go home and let your synthetic laborer pay the bills for a while. This is autonomy capital. It transforms you from a servant into a mercenary. You are there because you choose to be, not because you are shackled to the payroll. However, I have to pause the celebration here and issue a severe warning because this is where 90% of people fail. They reach $500,000. They feel this power and then they destroy it. I call this the rich-poor limbo. It is the most dangerous phase of wealth building. Here's the trap. You see $500,000 on your screen. You feel rich. Your brain releases dopamine. You tell yourself, I've made it. I deserve a reward. You look at your old Honda Civic and it suddenly looks disgusting to you. You start looking at a Tesla Model S. You start looking at a kitchen renovation. You start looking at status upgrades. This is phantom wealth. You are technically wealthy on paper, but you are cash flow poor. Remember that $500,000 is generating $40,000 to $50,000 a year, but that is growth, not necessarily cold hard cash in your pocket unless you sell the assets. And if you sell the assets to buy a toy, you are murdering your synthetic laborer. You are chopping off the hands of the ghost that is working for you. Let's play out the scenario of the guy who buys the $60,000 truck when he hits $500,000. He thinks, I have $500,000, $60K is nothing. But he is wrong. That $60,000 he pulls out of the market isn't just $60,000. At an 8% return, that $60,000 would have doubled every 9 years. Over the next 30 years, that $60,000 truck actually cost him over $600,000 in lost compounding. He didn't spend $60,000. He burned a future fortune. The tragedy of the $500,000 milestone is that it requires you to be patient exactly when you want to celebrate. You have to live like you are still broke, even though you know you aren't. You have to maintain your poverty discipline while holding wealthy assets. It is a psychological torture test. It creates a dissonance in your brain. You have the money to buy the things you want, but you possess the wisdom to know that buying them is a trap. The people who successfully transition from $500,000 to $5 million are the ones who can look at a catalog of luxury items and feel absolutely nothing. They have rewired their dopamine receptors to get high off the security, not the stuff. They realize that the ultimate luxury item is not a watch or a car. It is the unshakable knowledge that no matter what happens in the global economy, they will be okay. So how do we navigate this boring middle and actually get to the $500,000 mark? Because if you are sitting at $10,000 or $50,000 right now, $500,000 feels like climbing Everest without oxygen. I am not going to lie to you. The first 100,000 is hell. It is pure, unadulterated grinding. It is the atmospheric phase where gravity is strongest. You are saving, but the returns are tiny. You save $1,000 and earn $80 in interest. It feels pointless. You feel like you are filling a swimming pool with a dropper. This is where most people quit. They say investing doesn't work, and they go back to spending. But you have to understand the acceleration. The journey from $0 to 100,000 might take you 7 years, but the journey from 100,000 to 200,000 will only take 4 or 5 years. And the jump from 400,000 to 500,000 might happen in just 18 months. This is the velocity of money. As your capital base grows, the time it takes to accumulate the next chunk of wealth shrinks. To get to $500,000, you need a strategy of aggressive accumulation. This is not the time for balanced, conservative, protect your wealth strategies. This is the time for offense. You need to focus on 2 levers, income and savings rate. You cannot budget your way to $500,000 if you make minimum wage. You have to focus on skill stacking. You need to acquire skills that the market values, sales, coding, copywriting, management, and ruthlessly increase your primary income. Every extra dollar you earn should not go to a better apartment. It should go directly into the market. You are feeding the beast. You are building the synthetic laborer. You have to treat your investment account like a bill that must be paid. More important than your rent, more important than your food, you pay your future self first, and you put that money into boring, broad market index funds. Do not try to pick the next winning stock. Do not try to time the crypto market. You are not a hedge fund manager, and even if you were, you'd probably lose. You need the S&P 500 or a total stock market index. You need to bet on the entire economy of human innovation. You are buying a slice of every profitable company in the country. You are letting the CEOs and the workers of Apple, Microsoft, and Amazon work for you. That is how you get to $500,000. You ride the coattails of giants. Once you cross that 500,000 threshold, your life enters a new phase. I call this the stewardship phase. Your job changes from hunter to gardener. As a hunter, 0 or 500K, you are out there killing what you eat, dragging income home, and throwing it into the pot. As a gardener, 500K plies, your pile is big enough that your main job is just to water it, prune it, and make sure no pests eat it. You shift your focus to tax optimization, asset location, and maybe some defensive diversification. You start thinking about how to protect this mountain you've built. Because at 500,000, a 20% market crash is a 100,000 loss. That hurts. That is a visceral pain. You need to develop the stomach for it. You need to understand that volatility is the price of admission for returns. If you panic and sell when the market drops, you lock in the loss and destroy the machine. The person with $500,000 must have ice water in their veins. They must look at a market crash not as a disaster, but as a clearance sale where their dividends are reinvesting at lower prices, buying more shares, accelerating the eventual recovery. There is also a profound identity shift that needs to happen here. You have to stop identifying as a consumer and start identifying as a capitalist. This sounds political, but it's just mechanical. A consumer sees a dollar as a way to buy pleasure. A capitalist sees a dollar as a seed that grows more dollars. When you walk into a store, you shouldn't just see products, you should see the companies behind the products. When you see a line of people waiting for the new iPhone, the consumer thinks, I want one. The capitalist thinks, my Apple stock is going to have a good quarter. This shift in perspective is crucial because it aligns your dopamine with wealth creation rather than wealth destruction. You start to get more satisfaction from seeing your net worth graph go up than from buying a new pair of shoes. It sounds boring to the uninitiated, but it is actually the most addictive game in the world. It is the game of freedom. Let me tell you about the Saturday morning test. This is how you know the $500,000 is working. Wake up on a Saturday morning, you feel relaxed, you have coffee, you do whatever you want. Now imagine feeling that way on a Tuesday. That is what $500,000 buys. It buys you the ability to disconnect your survival from your obedience. It allows you to exist in a space where your choices are dictated by your values, not your bills. But remember, this doesn't happen by accident. It happens by design. It happens because you decided years ago that you were willing to look poor to the outside world so you could be free in your inner world. It happens because you understood the math of the synthetic laborer. So here is your mission. Stop looking at $500,000 as a number. Start looking at it as an entity. Give it a name if you have to. Visualize it as a person sitting next to you, ready to take over your shift. Every dollar you invest is training that person. Every raise you invest makes that person stronger. Every frivolous purchase you avoid keeps that person healthy. You are building the team that will eventually liberate you. The 9-to-5 is a trap designed to extract your energy until you are empty. The $500,000 investment portfolio is the key to the cage. It is sitting there waiting for you to forge it. It won't be easy. It will require sacrifice. It will require you to be the odd one out in your friend group who drives the old car and skips the expensive dinners. But one day, while they are still complaining about their boss and dreading Monday morning, you will wake up, look at your account, realize your synthetic labor has covered your expenses for the month, and you will roll over and go back to sleep. And that, my friends, is worth every single sacrifice. But reaching this 500,000 milestone is only half the battle, because once you have the capital, you face a new adversary that destroys more wealth than market crashes and bad spending habits combined. I am talking about the tax man. When you are strictly a laborer, taxes are mandatory. They are stripped from your paycheck before you even touch the money. You have no say in the matter. But when you cross the threshold into becoming a capitalist with substantial assets, you unlock a secret menu of options that the average worker doesn't even know exists. You see, the ultra-wealthy do not pay taxes the way you do because they do not earn money the way you do. They don't sell their assets to pay for their lifestyle because selling triggers a taxable event. Instead, they use a specific legal framework to access their millions without giving the government a single unnecessary cent. It sounds like a cheat code, but it is simply the rules of the game played at the highest level. If you found value in this breakdown of the $500,000 tipping point, do me a huge favor and hit that like button. It helps the algorithm push this truth to other people who are still stuck in the matrix. And if you are truly committed to building your financial freedom, type synthetic laborer in the comments down below so I can see who is actually serious about escaping the grind. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because we are just scratching the surface of what is possible. Now, if you want to understand exactly how the rich access their wealth without selling their stocks and how you can apply their strategy to your own portfolio to virtually eliminate your tax bill, you need to watch this video right here. How Billionaires Pay Zero Tax, the Buy, Borrow, Die Secret. It is the advanced operating manual for what to do once you acquire your capital, and it will change how you look at debt and income forever. I'm King, and I will see you in there.